I'm here, alone, in the deep silence of the night. The platoon was decimated, and I was left behind. The mission seemed simple, almost routine. Provide rear security while the evacuation took place, cover the others as they moved to safety. But what seemed like a quiet task turned into a nightmare. Within minutes, everything collapsed. The sound of explosions echoing, the screams of men falling, the smell of smoke and gunpowder in the air. No one could have predicted what would come next. Chaos was total. The front line fell apart in an instant. I was one of the few to survive, and now, here I am in a devastated battlefield, not knowing what happened to the others. My hands tremble, not just from exhaustion, but from the weight of responsibility. The pain of seeing my fallen comrades, and above all, the crushing loneliness that has surrounded me. The mission that seemed simple has now become the greatest fight for survival I've ever faced. Every second feels like an eternity. Every step is a challenge. And as the silence engulfs me, the question that keeps haunting me is, how much longer can I hold on? The commander, who had always been firm in his orders, who never hesitated in the face of adversity, simply did what he thought was necessary. He made quick decisions without looking back, just like he always did. And I stayed. Not by choice, but because the situation turned into a whirlwind no one could control. In the middle of the chaos, when the ground seemed to give way beneath our feet, things became irreversible. The bombs, the sound of guns, the screams. It all blended into a distorted melody of despair. There was no more time for calculations, only instincts. And, in the midst of this nightmare, the only option left for me was to survive. I don't know how long I'll be able to hold on or what the future holds, but one thing's for sure. The fight will be much more than against the undead. They aren't the only enemy. Deep down, I know the biggest battle will be against myself, against my own sanity. With every step, fear and uncertainty grow, but survival requires more than courage. It requires endurance, resilience. What else could come after this? I don't have the answers. All I know is that as long as there's breath in me, I won't stop fighting. Because in the end, it's up to us to decide what to do with our own lives. And, no matter how hard it gets, I still have the power to fight. The battlefield I was on is now a scene of death. A place where hope was swallowed by destruction. The explosions, the desperate screams, and the sound of ruins falling. All of it echoes through the empty city, a cruel reminder of what happened there. The streets, once full of life, are now deserted, overtaken by chaos. The ground, once walked on by thousands, is now covered in debris and bloodstains. The bodies, lifeless, are scattered everywhere, grotesquely spread out like pieces of a game no one cares to play anymore. The smell of smoke and death hangs in the air, mixed with the dust that rises with every step. It's impossible to look at the faces of these men and women without feeling the weight of the loss. The emptiness that remains when life is ripped away so abruptly. The sound of the wind passing through the rubble is the only thing that can still be heard. The city, once full of stories and dreams, is now nothing more than a field of ruins, a reminder of what it was before the end. And in the middle of all this, I find myself walking alone, surrounded by the echo of the past, trying to find some purpose to keep moving forward. But for some reason, the most terrifying thing isn't the zombies that seemingly keep dragging themselves through the city with their shuffling steps and empty stares. They're just part of the nightmare that's unfolded before my eyes. The worst part now is the silence. It weighs. It screams. Every breath I take seems to be swallowed by it. Every move I make echoes like a threat in the vastness of this deserted city. The silence is more than just the absence of sound. It's a muffled scream tearing me apart inside, reminding me of everything we lost, of everything that was destroyed. The loneliness. That's the pain no one was prepared to face. No one taught us how to live in a world where the only company is the emptiness, where friends, family, comrades vanished without a trace. The war wasn't just against the dead, but against everything that's left of me. Every memory becomes a burden. Every thought a battle that drags me deeper into the darkness. Who am I now after everything I've seen? After everything I've done to survive? The struggle to find a purpose, a reason to keep going, is the real battle. And while the dead walk lifeless through the city, I carry an even greater weight. The weight of being alive, but already broken inside. Now I'm here with my ammo running low, my strength limited, and a world that will never be the same. What was once familiar is now unrecognizable. A devastated landscape where life hides in the shadows and death lurks around every corner. Fear, that immense and constant feeling, is a presence that follows me with every step. It hides in the cracks, in the ruins of collapsed buildings, in the empty eyes of those who cross my path. But at the same time, fear hasn't paralyzed me, hasn't defeated me. It's become fuel, a silent force that pushes me forward, keeps me alert, makes me faster and smarter. I know that survival is no longer about brute strength or physical endurance. The real key now is cunning. Every move has to be calculated, every decision is a gamble. Mistakes can be fatal, the unexpected, lethal, and perhaps most importantly, knowing who to trust. In this new world where distrust is the most valuable currency, loyalty is a rare and precious commodity. There's no room for shallow friendships or weak alliances anymore. Every person I meet, every survivor who crosses my path is a calculated risk. Being strong enough to keep going is only half the battle. The other half is knowing who will walk beside you until the end. And in a world like this, where everything and everyone could be a threat, that choice becomes the hardest one of all. I don't know how much longer I can keep going like this, living in this void where exhaustion and loneliness are my constant companions. The fight against the outside world is tough, but the internal battle is even fiercer. With each passing day, I wonder if my sanity will be my last defeat. Deep down, I know the mission has changed. Now the mission is me. It's no longer about saving others or following orders. The real fight is against my own limits, against the hopelessness that threatens to consume me. And as the days go by, the only thing I can do is resist, hold on to the last spark of who I used to be, and keep moving forward. The silence. The silence is more threatening than any explosion I've ever heard. It's heavy, like the air around me is filled with something I can't see, but I can feel. This emptiness consumes me, makes me question what happened to the rest of the world. Yesterday, I saw a group of zombies crawling through the streets, but somehow it's no longer about them. It's not the dead that scare me, but what happened to the living. Where are the others? What's left of us? The real fear now lies in the absence, the loneliness, the doubt that maybe no one else survived. The real threat now is inside of me. Without food, without ammunition, I'm starting to realize that my mind is falling apart. The emptiness around me is no longer the biggest problem, but what's happening inside of me. I no longer know what's real. Every thought seems distorted, and the line between what was and what is begins to blur. Every step feels heavy, not just on my body, but on my mind. The fight is no longer against the dead or the world out there, but against my own survival, against the sanity that's slowly slipping away. Loneliness, at first, seemed like the greatest enemy. But now I feel the emptiness is swallowing me from the inside out, consuming every part of me. There's no more room to reclaim the humanity that somehow still remained. Fear and uncertainty intertwine, consuming me in a way that even the dead could not. The real fight is no longer for physical survival, but for my soul, against the darkness that's trying to swallow me whole. What's left of me? I'm trapped in an emptiness, and in it, being devoured slowly. The feeling that I'm being devoured, even without knowing if I'll survive until the end of the day, is the only company I have now. Each step takes me deeper into this emptiness, and fear seems to be the only certainty. I don't know if the real threat is out there or inside me in the doubts that are eating away at my mind. Each day I feel further from any hope. I don't know if I'll find something that pulls me out of this spiral. But loneliness and uncertainty seem to be the only path now. I'm starting to understand what many of us fear deep down. The apocalypse isn't just about the end of the world, but about the end of who we are, how we connect with reality. Everything we knew is gone, and what's left is a distortion of the life we used to live. I don't know where I'm going anymore, or if I even want to keep going. Each step takes me further from who I was, and the fight is no longer against what's out there, but against what's happening inside me. What was real now seems like an illusion, and I wonder if I can still recognize what's left of me. Sometimes even the idea of giving up seems simpler. The pain, the fear, the loneliness push me toward the abyss. But there's a voice inside me that resists. It says there's something more, a reason to keep going, even if I don't know what it is. Maybe it's hope or something I don't yet understand. What matters is that this voice keeps me from succumbing to the darkness and reminds me that, despite everything, there's still a reason to move forward. one step at a time. I found someone. Honestly, I didn't expect to find anyone else. I thought it was just me against the world now until that man appeared on the horizon. He was in a pitiful state, but at first, I thought he was a mirage, something created by my mind in desperation. His body was wounded, his clothes torn, and his face covered in blood and dirt. But when I saw him, something stirred inside me, a mix of fear and a faint hope. What did he want? Why was he there? I didn't know, but one thing was certain. Loneliness was no longer absolute, but it wasn't. It was real. He saw me and for some reason didn't attack me. For a moment I was frozen, unable to believe it. Suddenly I wasn't so alone anymore. He offered me a chance, an opportunity to get out of this hell. He spoke about a place, a possible salvation, and for a moment I thought maybe it was the answer. But there was something in his gaze, a shadow that made me hesitate. What did he want? What wasn't he telling me? The doubt grew, but hope still whispered for me to trust. I just didn't know if I could. This man, however, didn't seem to be here by accident. He asked me for something in return, something I'm not sure I can offer. He spoke about a refuge, a safe place, but something didn't seem right. His expression, the hurried movements, the extreme exhaustion, all of it kept me on edge. He wasn't just tired, it looked like he was running from something. His eyes carried a tension I couldn't decode. The promise of refuge was tempting, but the distrust kept growing. What was he hiding? I don't know if I can trust him, but the temptation to have a purpose, a direction, is too great to ignore. The uncertainty of going it alone, not knowing what's next, is suffocating. The idea of walking aimlessly, without hope, surrounded by the undead, with the constant feeling that the end is near, feels unbearable now. Each day drags on as if it's the last, and even though this offer comes with risks, it's the only chance for something beyond this empty existence. Staying silent, buried in my own doubts, is worse than any danger he might pose. Sometimes even the idea of trusting seems easier than facing the emptiness alone. I should be cautious, shouldn't I? Something inside me screams not to trust, to stay on guard and protect what's left of me. But at the same time, another part of me, maybe the more desperate part, the one that's already lost so much, wants to believe. Because in the end, what else can we do but try? Doubt weighs heavily, but hope, no matter how fragile, is still something to hold on to. I don't know how far this encounter will take me, whether it's a trap or a real chance, but somehow it's my only chance. It's all I have right now to move forward, or am I fooling myself, clinging to something that will just disappoint me once again? The truth finally appeared, like a sharp blade cutting through the illusion I had built. The man I met, that seemingly lost and desperate being, wasn't a savior. He wasn't the hope I imagined. He deceived me, seduced me with promises of refuge and safety. But it was all just a well-crafted lie. He wasn't here to help me, but to use me, to lead me straight into an ambush. I fell into the trap, blinded by hopelessness and the desire to believe in something, anything, that could pull me out of this dark reality. Now surrounded and with no options, the feeling of betrayal is more painful than any physical wound. The feeling of being used, of being thrown to the front lines without even knowing what was going on, is more bitter than any physical pain I could feel. I was starting to believe, to feel a faint hope, as if maybe, just maybe, I could find something better in this hell, something that would pull me out of the darkness, a chance to start over. But instead, reality revealed itself in a cruel and merciless way. All of it, all the words, gestures, and glances were just disguising a well-crafted plot to destroy me. I was a pawn in a game I didn't even understand, and now the feeling of betrayal is all that's left. Everything I thought was a refuge, an escape, turned into my greatest damnation. I stayed hidden among the ruins, hearing the shots echoing in the distance. I couldn't see much, but the sound of the gunfire told me everything. The squad hadn't forgotten about me. Number, they knew exactly where I was. I was left behind, yes, but it wasn't by accident. It was on purpose. The decision to abandon me wasn't a mistake, but a strategic choice. I was no longer part of the mission. I was bait, a disposable piece used to ensure their safety. It wasn't a strategy, it was a betrayal. They threw me to the front lines, knowing I would be the distraction. Now I can't trust anyone anymore. Those who were by my side, those in my squad, are now the enemies. The bond I thought we had is gone. They abandoned me like I was nothing. as if my life didn't matter. I was discarded, and now, all that's left is the pain of betrayal, following me with every step. Now, alone, the feeling of betrayal blends with the urgent need to survive. I can't let myself be consumed by it, but at the same time, the truth pulls me into a darker place. Anger and despair are strong, but disillusionment grows with every step. Survival seems impossible without anyone by my side, and the shadow of betrayal keeps me from seeing a way out. What does it mean to be part of something if that something no longer exists? What am I now if the squad that swore to protect me left me to die? The idea of brotherhood dissolves in the face of cruel reality. The questions pile up, but the answers are still far away. Every step takes me further from who I was, and betrayal consumes me little by little. Who am I without the loyalty of those who should have been by my side? I can hear the zombies now, closer than ever. The sound of claws on concrete, heavy breaths, as if the air is closing in. But the apocalypse isn't just about the undead. The real terror is what's inside me. The battle against my mind, the fear of losing my sanity. As the dead get closer, I realize I'm becoming more isolated between the monsters and my own demons. The real threat isn't just in the bodies dragging through the city. The greatest danger is what's happening inside us, when survival becomes an obsession, when humanity is lost behind the need to keep breathing. Each day that passes, the line between who I was and what I'm becoming gets thinner. I look around, try to remember who I was before this, but the memories blur, become distant. I know that the fight for life demands sacrifices, but at what cost? I'm starting to lose myself, not just to the zombies, but to this darkness that's taking over me. Fear transforms into something more dangerous. A coldness that keeps me from feeling, questioning, fighting for anything beyond a tomorrow that seems more and more distant. Every shadow, every dark corner, every strange noise that comes from the ruins. It all makes me question if the greatest enemy is myself. Fear is no longer something I can control. It has become a part of me, a constant shadow. And the more I try to hide, the more he finds me. I can feel the zombies out there, but I can also feel myself drifting away from everything I once knew as human. I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to go back to who I was. Maybe what I am now is just a shadow of what I used to be. I know I need to make a decision. Staying here, waiting, isn't an option. Danger is lurking, and not just in the dead crawling through the city. But can I still make a decision that will save me? Is there a right choice in a world where everything seems to have gone to the abyss? The question that burns inside me is, how far am I willing to go to save myself? Or, in the end, have I already lost the right to choose? I escaped. I made it, but the price was high. The pain of escaping is something that will stay with me. The betrayal. The loss, the weight of knowing that the others are out there while I run to save my life. But the truth is, I'll never see my brothers in arms again. They're left behind just like everything I knew. I'll never get the chance to redeem myself, to make peace with my mistakes. All I am now is a soldier without a squad, without a mission. The only thing left of me is the will to survive. But what's left when you escape everything? When you have freedom but no direction? Escape didn't bring me peace. It left me with the feeling that, in the end, what I lost the most was my own identity. What am I if not a fugitive? What's left of a soldier when he loses everything, even the reasons that made him fight? The question echoes in my mind, and no matter how hard I try to push it away, it won't go. I escaped, but I don't know what I found when I left. Now the only mission I have is to survive. It no longer matters what I was, what matters is what I am now. But how long can I keep going like this? Escape gave me a false sense of freedom. Now, in the silence of the night, with the city in ruins and the weight of betrayal on my back, the only thing I can do is try to move forward, step by step. The road ahead is uncertain, but I know I need to keep going. Where to, I still don't know. But the fight goes on. The days drag on in a way I never thought possible. With every step I take, with every movement, my mind seems to drift further from reality. I feel on the edge of madness, as if I'm walking through an endless maze, not knowing which way to go. Every shadow, every sound in the distance, every scent of death, all of it just reminds me of what I've lost. And the more I try to move forward, the more this feeling of emptiness settles inside me. Doubt is consuming me, and I don't know how to stop it. Is it worth continuing? Is what's left of my life worth this daily struggle against something I don't even know what it is anymore? Sometimes I wonder if it would have been better to stay with my brothers in arms, face the end alongside them. But at the same time, something tells me this was the only choice I could have made. I don't know what's right anymore. And the scariest part is I don't think I care as much about knowing. Every step I take takes me further from who I was. But at the same time, it forces me to face who I've become. What am I now? A survivor? A broken man? Maybe it's the pain that makes me feel this way. Maybe it's the weight of my choices. I don't know. The chaos is no longer just out there. It's inside me. It chases me. It controls me. What will tomorrow bring? I don't know, but I know I need to keep walking. The zombies are closer than I thought. They're no longer far away like before. Now they're almost within reach of my hands. I fought until the end. Every bullet fired, every movement I made to survive, felt like a victory amidst the chaos. But the fight is no longer against the dead. Now the real battle is against myself. I'm alone, out of ammo, out of hope. The feeling of being lost, of having no strength left, is overwhelming. At some point I thought I could resist. But now every breath, every beat of my heart reminds me that the end is near. I don't know how much longer I can hold on. Maybe this is the end. But before I fall, before I become just a distant memory, there's one thing I can still do. I need to tell my story. I need to share what happened so that no one else makes the same mistake. Even if I don't survive, may my story serve as a warning. I'm no longer the man I was. What's left of me is a soldier without a squad, without a future. But there's something in me that still resists. One last flame that refuses to die out. Maybe it's the fear of being forgotten. Maybe it's the need for my fight to not have been in vain. Before I fall, I'll do something. I'll leave my story behind so they remember me. So that, even if I die, the memory of what happened won't be lost. I'm still here, but I don't know how anymore. With each passing day, the feeling that I'm further from who I was before grows. Surviving no longer means living. The world around me is destroyed, but what I truly feel is the destruction within me. The fight that kept me alive no longer makes sense. What I've lost, what we all lost, cannot be recovered. I'm a man from a time that no longer exists. And with every step I drift further from the man I once was. The apocalypse didn't make the world die, it made us die inside. Death isn't just in the undead. It's in the eyes of those who survive, in the hearts that beat but no longer know how to live. I have this constant feeling like a shadow chasing me. Life hasn't come back. Life as I knew it is gone, and all that's left is just an immense emptiness. I don't know how much longer I'll last. I don't know how much my body can take. But if anyone finds this, know that I tried. That despite all my flaws, I fought to survive. I fought until despair took over. And maybe I failed. But my story somehow needs to be told. So that maybe someone learns what not to do, or at least understands the weight of what was left behind. Maybe the truth is in there. Maybe the only thing I have to leave is this. What's left of me, at least, won't fade away so easily. The broadcast has ended. What's left of me, of all this, is now just the echo. The story I tried to tell now fades into the void. There are no more words, no more hopes. What's left is silence. And that silence is final. My name is John Miller, and this was my last message.